The age of social media, all it takes nowadays to spark up an online fight is to merely have an opinion. One opinion will cause many to spiral into a pit hole of anger where no one dialogues, only insults the person who has the unpopular or even the popular opinion regarding the latest trends in comic books, movies, or pulp culture. It makes sense given the circumstance. After all, acting tough behind the protective wall of the black mirror we all own and use on a daily basis makes it easy for anyone to jump right into a tirade of insults and threats. Again, just for having an opinion that they may disagree with. I decided to go against that notion. I've decided to start a video series where we discuss the hot topic issues within the comic book industry and pulp culture and provide you with another perspective. One of logic, reason, with just plain old dialogue between two people who have different opinions. My co-host and I will discuss the pulp culture topics at hand in a fun, engaging, and respectable manner. So, without further ado, let's talk about it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Julius Freeman, and with me is always the one and only
Kyle.
We hope that everyone had a good week. Hope you guys bought good comics and enjoyed them and read them. But Kyle, what's new with you, man? How was your week? What you been up to? And by the way, before we get started, our guest will be on soon, shortly. So, but before that, I'll let Kyle give you a little rundown of what he went through for the week.
All right. Well, let's see. We didn't have a show last week because I was gone. I was in Dallas for the Dallas Fan Expo, which was a lot of fun. Got to meet a lot of writers and artists and celebrities, and we'll be going over more of my trip in another episode probably next week because there's a lot that I want to talk about.
Yeah, I bet.
But one of the main draws of the show was, for at least for comic book creators, was that Ryan Otley, who is one of the main artists for the Invincible series with Robert Kirkman, was there. Boy, man, he was definitely the draw of the town. Him and then also Scott Snyder was there. So them two, and of course, they have to put them both right next to each other. So that way the lines go all the way down and around, and you're trying to figure out whose line is whose and everything. And brilliant planning by the Dallas Fan Expo coordinators. But one of the main things that I wanted to get there was, well, first off, I had wanted to get a sketch cover done by Ryan Otley. And oh man, his prices for sketch cover were a little out of my price range.
Yeah, I bet.
But one of the things he did have was he just had normal signings, and I had a couple books that I wanted to get signed. So first of all, I opened this here live on the channel, which was the Battle Beast cover A, which I got signed.
Nice.
By Ryan Otley, right there on the bottom.
You bastard, man! You always get the good stuff, dude. And you always get them signed too. And you're
yeah, of course. I always get them signed. And then this book I bought already pre-signed by Jim Lee, who was the cover artist. And so I then got this Invincible number 51, also signed by Ryan Otley.
I hate you, Kyle.
I'm saving this for when I go to San Diego. Maybe I'll run into Robert Kirkman.
Oh, right, yeah.
Trifecta.
Yeah, issue 51. Nice, dude. Very nice.
Yeah. So this one was really cool to get signed. Ryan Otley, his signature was, about average. It was $10, which is, about normal. For I was
About
expecting a
it's
lot
about
more.
$10 too much, if you ask me.
Yes, Mr. Critic here, who lives back when
Back
the
in my day,
90s.
signatures were free. Dang it!
Yeah, well, you gotta get with the times, man. That's not how it is anymore.
Yeah. No, Kyle. You're supposed to say, "Well, get over it, Grandpa."
I know. The future is now, old man. But yeah, so the thing is, though, he also did his signature bloodied, and the difference between the regular signature and the bloodied signature was
Mhm.
it was $20 more, so it was $30. And the difference was he added a couple squiggly lines and some polka dots around.
Nice.
So that was an extra $20.
Oh my gosh! Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, maybe we'll ask our guest what he thinks about that, because I'm curious to see what he thinks. But just for the people who are watching at home, thank you again for being with us on a Friday. I get it. It's cool that you guys are here watching us talk about comics and pop culture and what have you. Tonight's topic is an interesting one. It's one that kind of flared up this week, and there was a conversation about writers and artists and whether or not there should be if it should automatically be a collaboration, co-authors, and so on and so forth. And our guest who's with us, he is the writer and creator of books like Tap or Die, which I think it ran in the Kickstarter for a while. I don't know how long ago that was. And he currently is writing. I'm gonna call it IDAF, just for the sake of trying to keep it PG, but you could guess what that means. IDAF Aliens #1, which I read. He was gracious enough to send us a copy to read, and it's really fun. I really enjoyed the story. I found myself laughing a few times, and not because it was bad. It was because it was good. It was actually fun. But yeah, please welcome Mr. Anthony Stokes to the show. Anthony Stokes, what's up, man?
What's going on? How's my mic?
You're a little low.
A little low.
Hold on one second. It's always happening. What about now?
Yep.
Perfect.
That's good.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for reading as well. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, real quick, Anthony, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're the first time, on the show. I follow you on. I've been following you on X for a while now, and I mean, I've seen you when you started out, and seeing you grow. You grew. It's kind of amazing how you hustled for that. So walk us down that journey as to how you went from starting out, small, and then now growing your business and your enterprise.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I always liked writing since I was a little kid, really. Like since I was 8, I think I tried to make my first home movie, failed miserably.
You gotta start somewhere, man. You gotta start somewhere.
I asked for a camera for my 3rd grade birthday, and it was such a waste because I didn't film anything. Like it was such a way. I could have gotten like, I don't know, like a video game console, but I that's what I was into. And then I guess like 20 years later, 18 years later, we want to talk about hustle. My job, we could basically work all the hours we wanted. You could pick up extra shifts at will, essentially. And it was COVID, so everything was locked down. So I was like,
right.
So I'll just go into work, and I just saved up and saved up. I worked every day, I think in 2021, I believe, or maybe 2020, I don't know. But literally I worked every day, and then I took the money and made my first comic book, Decay. And
that's right.
I would just say, truthfully, I just wouldn't accept failure as an option. I value versatility, resiliency, of course. And so being able to pivot, being able to look at trends, establishing great relationships, all that stuff. I just kind of refuse. I mean, it sounds like, but I just can't fail. You know, like I just not something I can even perceive. Like I always gotta keep going. You know, I'm heavy in the con circuit too. Not as much as I like, but I do like 10 cons a year.
Okay.
In the 12
Like
months.
a local or like regional, or how far do you go?
Man, it's crazy because I live in Norfolk area,
Okay.
and there's like 3 cons that were like within a
The
20
whole
minute.
year?
Well 20 in the yeah. So there's 3 that are within like 20-minute driving distance. And then I'm in Virginia, so I can go to like North Carolina, South Carolina. I can go to New York, Maryland, all that stuff. So I'm kind of in a really good spot to kind of go anywhere in the coast, and I'll kind of like I'll do a Chicago C2E2. Maybe I'll do like maybe
I heard that's
I'm
a
trying to
big
do
one.
Green Con next year. So, but for now, I'm mostly on the East Coast.
Nice. Okay. Very cool.
What specifically got you into comic books though?
I'd always loved manga was my I was always grounded. I was always in trouble. I didn't do my homework. I don't know what possessed me. I could have done my homework and saved myself so much trouble. And I was always grounded, but I could read. You know, I was always there.
Right.
So like a family friend brought me home Yu-Gi-Oh! I like the TV show. They brought me home the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga. I was like, oh man, this is like always kind of edgy. Like I was like kind of the perfect time. And then at one point, my mom took my manga too. She said she can't read. You can't even read that. But I had some copies stashed around the house. It was all good. And so I always loved manga. I know some people consider comics and manga, but just for the sake, that's kind of where I got into it. And I would like pick up little. I had a copy of. I've always had a copy of Watchmen since I was like 13. You know.
Okay.
Oh
wow, you started heavy right off the bat, huh?
Yeah, I know. It's like
yeah.
That's a heavy book for a 13-year-old, you know?
Can I say the title of the Mark Millar comic book series with John Romita Jr.?
Sure.
Yeah.
Kick ass. I like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not that PG. Just so you know, so you can feel, you don't have to feel obligated. A few F-bombs do come out, a few bad words do come out because heat of the moment, you're in the middle of this discussion, so it's all good. Just as long as it's not a diarrhea of like F-bombs, one after the other.
You're right.
Specifically done by you, Julius.
I am guilty. I am guilty of doing that for sure. Yes, because I do get I lose myself sometimes when I'm discussing things. So the reason why you're on the show is because you reached out to me because you wanted to discuss, certain things. And so I'm going to leave the floor to you, man. Like, what is it that you want to like talk about, get off your chest? And then we'll just go with that. We'll just go with the flow.
That's pretty dubious. You want me to
well, do you watch the show or have you seen any of our previous episodes?
I seen like bits of it, but I did watch the debate.
The debate between Tyler and Tony.
Yeah, and I just felt like in general, the reason why I'm doing a little bit, I used to do more interviews and stuff. I don't know if there's I used to do more shows and stuff, but I kind of like, all right, let me just lock in and just like focus, but I was like the discourse was just so bad. In just kind of every direction where I was like, and then I was like, nah, man, I can't let this lie, bro. Like there's just no way. So this would be the third show I'm on. Let me ask you something, Lucid. You say you liked Gaff Aliens. You say you liked it?
Yeah.
Would you say it's objectively good?
Ooh.
You know what? Yes, I would. You know why? Here's why. Because you introduced the character, right? You immediately made him identifiable for me because I noticed like to run late, or you're like, oh yeah, I'll be there. I connected with that. Then you took him out of his element, which is when he got abducted, and then after that, it flowed nicely. The dialogue wasn't too much. The comedy was on point. And once I got the flavor of what you were doing, that was it. That was enough. And then after that, I was able to read through it, no problem, to the end.
Hey, so I hope a certain someone is listening, right? Because objective is across the board, right? So like, there,
Well, yeah, because you followed I guess
yeah,
the formula of what it is to write a good plot.
that was interesting to me. That was an interesting conversation in terms of art being objective, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And I believe there are objective things about art, for sure, right? Like in terms of like you can determine like pacing, print quality, blah blah blah. So I did watch the stream, and I thought we the we didn't really it wasn't really defined object like what makes an objectively good book.
Right. Yeah.
It was
Right.
kind of
Mhm.
like, oh, it wins awards, but bro, get awards are subjective, bro. I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, when's the last time everybody was like, yeah, the Oscars got it right across the board? Like
Right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Right.
it's it's still subjective. And referring back to the debate, I thought it was interesting, but I thought it was a missed opportunity to kind of press Tony to try to he didn't have to defend his position in terms of his book being objectively great, which I thought if he had, he would have elaborated, which I thought would have um made some points. And I think the problem I have with a lot of the discourse, I guess I would be the NSFW side, right? Is I think it's just misunderstanding the platform. Like Kickstarter isn't really a comic book platform.
Right. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
looked at it, and I think Kickstarter comics were like seventh or sixth in terms of grossing category, right? Um, I feel like, because I've had discourse with Everett, the CEO. I was like, yo, does he just feel like we're just whiny as hell? Right? Like this little chunk, y'all like making this little slice of revenue, and y'all are like bringing up all this stuff, and a lot of stuff that we asked for is just not relevant to other, like if you're making, I think games were the biggest one.
Mm.
If you're making a games, you don't have a whole list of add-ons to add from every campaign to campaign. So I think
Yeah.
that was
It's
my
not
that
like
was my
not like DLCs like EA.
yeah, you can't add microtransactions to the Kickstarter
Yeah.
package.
Right.
So I just thought, yeah, there's just a misunderstanding about what the platform is. It's like, oh yeah, we have to like get these smaller creators, blah blah. I was like, but what's the incentive to do that? Like, why does Kickstarter say, hey, this algorithm might work for 10 of the 11 categories? Let's say it's 11, right? I don't know. But like
Yeah.
it works for 90% of the categories, but just one category, we're gonna like switch everything around. So I think there's a real I try to approach everything from a practicality standpoint, because you kind of can't let certain things you can't like there's a lot of noise in the comic space. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like
Especially the indie
Mhm.
sphere. The
in the
indie sphere is
indie
a lot of
sphere,
noise
my
there. Yeah.
friend Chris Moses actually got his book Synap right here. Go
Nice.
pick that up. He said the best thing and the worst thing is that everybody can have an opinion. Um
Yeah.
Now, does making a significant amount of money on the platform and doing a bunch of projects make you the definitive voice? No. Does it mean you have a perspective? And yes, and if you've
Yeah.
only, if you only have a limited perspective of the platform, should that be valued as the same? I would say no. So I'm all for people giving their opinions and stuff, but it's like this is the only space where experience doesn't matter. Like that
Mhm.
you can't pull cards. You can't be like, hey, I did this, blah blah. It's kind of like, hey, everybody's can just throw opinions around and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what we try to do here is like we
Yeah.
have our opinions, like
Yeah.
like we come at it from our own perspectives, where like when we review books,
Mhm.
he reviews it from the more critical side, writer side aspect of it. I approach it from the just broad reader type aspect of it. And I think that's what you're trying to get at, is that there's different perspectives that people have, specifically even on Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I thought the idea to make like separate categories was good. I think the idea of having a panel of people that kind of decide what gets pushed, that's like, because I was like, yo, what if you make a book and then like your algorithm's not picking you up, and then they start doing it by quality, which is dubious because we don't know what the books are going to come out like, right? Like we all using different printers.
Right. Yeah.
How do you determine the quality based off of the pages? And what if the panel's like, yo, we don't really fuck with your book? What do you do then? Like, what? That would be crushing. It's like, man, the algorithm didn't like me. These hosts didn't like me. What would you, yo? Because like before your book wasn't popular and now it's not good. And Kickstarter tries to play it pretty even keel. You know, they try to just keep it pretty level. You know, so yeah, I would just be like, there's a lot of questions that people have, like, why doesn't Kickstarter do this? And it's like, you're asking that rhetorically, but you should really ask yourself, like, no, why would they do this? You know, like, so yeah, that's where I'm at, you know. And again, I'm all for hearing different opinions and stuff, but I have to hate to be the bearer of bad news. Kickstarter is not like uprooting their whole stuff just for us, just for the little sliver of comics, you know.
No, I mean, yeah, if you put it from that perspective, yeah, I mean, it would be like, you know, I guess what you're trying to equate it to is like going to a grocery store and then telling them, okay, I know you guys sell magazines at the front of the store, so why don't you go and just push magazines throughout every single aisle, because the magazines are cool. You know, or something.
Yo, that's like if I went to Whole Foods and was like, yo, can I get some Doritos? Like, it's just not, you're not understanding what the experience is, right? And I think the conversations can be good. But I don't know. That's just my perspective. If anybody has any questions about Kickstarter, you know, hit me up, because I want to bring knowledge to the platform, because that helps everybody, right? I want to bring people to the platform. I want people to understand, and I do feel for creators that feel as if they're being ignored, you know, by the platform. That sucks. Like I definitely empathize, but we have to figure out if we're being honest. And you said I could talk about whatever I want, right? Like we're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of these let's just say regular books, right? They just aren't as well. I mean, like, if you think about the NSFW books, like, they're selling a product. Like, you know, not you guys, but theoretically, you might have a problem morally with what the product is, but they're selling their product well. And you can. Part of the reason why I started doing this was because, one, a bunch of my friends were doing it. So I was like, okay, cool. So when I'm networking, it's like, all right, we're going after the similar audience. And when I ask you a question, we're in the same kind of field. Also, like, I can justify getting a Patrick Mulholland for Aliens because I know it's going to make money. Otherwise, I have to think twice. I have to really think twice and be like, can this make X? And I'm like, am I got to make it on the back end or whatever? It's like, okay, I can get this echelon of artists. So I think that's just also, I don't know if that's talked about as well. It's like, all right, how well are these campaigns being built as well, I guess.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's a major factor for sure. I mean, speaking from experience, yeah, like I've had a few failed projects myself, crowdfunding projects, where I didn't earn the money I was hoping to earn. And at the end of the day, I had to go back and really look, okay, what did I do wrong? And how can I fix it? So that way, when I launch it again down the line, I won't fail again. And and you're right. I went in totally ignorant about what the platform offers. You know, I treated it like a storefront and not a platform where you're raising funds to get your book either printed. I learned my lesson not to get it made anymore. I have to at least have 80% of it done before I even launch it. So that way there's no 12-month wait for the book to be delivered to the backers. And so it's a lot of trial and error, but at the end of the day, like during that debate, I did agree with Tyler that it's beholden to us. We have to hustle. We have to push the product to people's faces and go, check out my book, look at it, check it out, and hope for the best. After that, you hope that you get your crowd and your audience.
Yeah, and I think like also like, all right, so you understand. I think you just have to come like even more correct, right? Like you got to put like, you don't have to, but I would love to see something insane. Like Nandor was brought up as a positive example, and I think his books look insane. Like, you know what I'm saying? Those books look like, all right, I'm really getting something different here.
Yeah,
like I this would be something I would stop and scroll past. Now I'm gonna say one more thing about the debate, and then we can go to the writer versus artist conversation.
Okay.
But
Sure.
the one thing that was like very frustrating is that Tony was like, there's so many great creators that they're doing this, they're doing everything right? That was the argument. They're doing everything right. I wanted to ask y'all, how many people in whatever y'all do, whatever y'all's profession, how many people are doing everything right? Like that work in your field. How many people can you think of? I can think of not that many doing everything right.
Got everything on point, everything.
Well, I think to be fair, to play devil's advocate, I think he was referring to making the book, like doing everything right in terms of making their book complete, the art, the writing, the editing, all that stuff. I think that's what he meant. I should have asked him to elaborate on that when he was on the show, but it was just so electrified at that point. So I was like, all right,
y'all are nice guys, so y'all don't know when stuff gets testy. You're like, whoa, this is crazy. It's like when it gets I totally understand. Well, I think when you're saying right, and when you're saying I'm doing everything, that implies to me that I made an objectively great book, right? And I'm marketing well. I'm using all the stuff. And then it's not selling because it's not getting visibility. That is how I interpreted what was being said.
Okay.
And I just don't like, I didn't have a website until 2 months ago, right? I didn't really have a dedicated website. There's just so much stuff that you have to do. I just doubt it. And then the only name that got named was Nandor, who is lit. Nandor is definitely lit, but it feels like a straw man when it's like, all right, but who else? Like you're saying creators. This is the first time I've seen somebody straw man positively. You know what I'm saying? Like normally you make up something negative to say. This is the first time I've seen somebody make up something positive. It's like, oh my God, there are dozens of creators. It's endless. You can't walk anywhere without stepping on a great creator doing a. I'm like, all right, but who? It's Nandor and Alan Moore. That's the only thing that I've gotten from these conversations. But I think there are a lot of. Let me also say, I think there are a lot of good creators on the platform. I think Kevin Joseph is really good. I like Mike Shea's books, Miskatonic High, super duper fun. And my friend Trevor F, he does the Rise series, superhero book. It is phenomenal series. It's one of the best series. Priced really well. It's like 32 pages for like I think like $15, which is a really good deal. So
yeah,
that is pretty good.
Let me follow my own advice there. But I got it all out about the debate. If you guys want to talk about like the writer artist conversation, I'm with it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw the blow up on your timeline. But there was I forget the person's name. We follow each other. He's a writer. I think it was a post of I'm gonna see if I can find it and I can share it. He put up the post and he had 4 pictures. It was I think it was Alan Moore, Chris Claremont. I forgot the other 2 that he named. And he asked the question, writing comes first, and did his thing. I'll look for it right now, but it caused a big stir, right? Everyone was like, "Oh, writing!" And then it started a debate between what who has the, I guess, the more of the authority of, or the weight, who carries the weight more, in terms of like the production of the comic book. And the thing about the back and forth on Twitter is that a lot of things get lost in translation when you're texting. That's why I never engage in
No.
at all.
Yeah, me neither.
I do it here. It's best to do it here because then you'll see my face. You'll know that I'm not
Right.
insulting you or anything. We're having the conversation, and so
Yeah,
on and
it's
so
actually
forth. So,
like sarcasm and stuff.
yeah,
gets lost
exactly,
in
exactly.
text.
And so, it started off this whole thing. And so, did you see that? And if you did, what'd you think of that? What
My
were
eyes
your
kinda
thoughts on
glaze
that?
over
And
on
I'll
that.
look for the tweet while you share your thoughts.
And I hate to do. I wish I had a hard position to defend, right? But I saw this post. It was like people speak so definitively. I don't know, man. Sometimes it depends. And like
It's
that's the
always
thing.
all or nothing. It's A
Yeah,
or
it's
B.
like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to even, because it's like if the idea I have so many thoughts. First off, how much of this stuff, and this is something I notice, is people that are bringing conversation. If you're talking about exploiting artists, I feel like you're talking about like DC. You're talking about the big two. Like you're talking about the pros, right? So me from Marvel is like a world apart. We're almost not even in the same medium. You know what I'm saying? Like, so why are you bringing that baggage to a conversation like down here? You know what I'm saying? Like we're all down here. Why are you? That's the first thing. But I'm like, yeah, it just depends. Like I like when I write all my scripts differently depending on the artist, right? Like
Right.
for my more experienced artist, like one artist, and let me say how I use these conversations effectively. I will show it to my artist and be like, what do you think of this? Like, am I tripping, like, et cetera, and through this conversation, my artist was like, yeah, this is a thing that writers do that sucks, like when they refer to the comic artist as my artist or my colorist.
Right.
I didn't think twice about it, and I wouldn't have a problem with being referred to as my writer. I just meant to say like, hey, we're partners, we're I guess maybe not partners, but we're working together, we're collaborators, et cetera, but I can see how it feel, and it's not a one-to-one. There's a lot of nuance there. But I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, like what are you talking about? I feel like how many these people engaging in this stuff have even made comic books? You know what I'm saying? Like, which is like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to gatekeep, but like sometimes, I don't know if y'all have seen Sinners. Sometimes gatekeeping is good, bro. Like sometimes gatekeeping is lit because like you're talking about a process that you may or may not know about.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. By the way, Sinners, fantastic film. If you have not seen Sinners yet, you highly recommend it. It's one of the best movies to come out this year. I'm a huge Ryan Coogler fan. I discovered his work when he did Creed. Actually, when he did Creed, when I watched that movie, I was blown away by how good of a director he is. And so, good for him for getting that sweet deal that he got from Warner Brothers to retain his rights to that movie. But this is the tweet right here. Writing comes first. Art is super important. Don't get me wrong. Art gets people in, but writing keeps them around. So who is the best comic writer of all time? Not who is your favorite. Not who made the most characters, wrote the most stuff. Who is the best? And then he named Alan Moore, Chris Claremont, Grant Morrison, and Jeff Johns. And this is the tweet, Kyle, that started it all. Pretty much.
Like, honestly, like, okay, from my opinion, though, as a reader, that's just like, I go to the comic book store, I look at the wall and I see what's there. I do agree with what this post is saying in that the comic books are, you are advertising to you what the book is going to be about. And so if you have a high quality artist that's in the book that gets you want to pick up the book, I feel that you should have an equally high quality writer. That way, when you are reading the story, the art will reflect what the writer is saying. I think what gets tripped up is that sometimes you'll get a very high quality writer, but not so high quality artist to go along with it. So that way, when you go over the wall of books, the high quality writer doesn't get noticed because the lesser quality artist is the one that's advertising the book. And could be also vice versa the other way too, where you have
Right.
the
Yeah.
high quality artist gets paired up with a lower quality writer. And I do think though it's easier to read the high quality art and the lower quality writing because, as you know, we do say this is a more visual medium.
Yes.
But I do agree though, when thinking about comic books in general, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to bring in this new person into comic books. I usually always start them off with the good stories first. And, you know, not so much about, okay, yeah, these are cool artists and you should definitely kind of check them out. But if you want to get into comic books, start with the stories. And the stories mainly come from the writers. So, I mean,
it depends. It depends on the situation. It always depends on the situation.
It depends, bro. Because I don't know how many times. And I leave room for collaboration, right? Like there will be every once in a while. It's like, no, we need it like this. But a lot of the visual storytelling is the artist. You know, kind of rearranging things. It just depends so much. And it's like, yo, what's better in Watchmen? Is it the writing or is it the art? It's like I've done both. I've read books that I think, like, to me, maybe I shouldn't say it. There's a book, they're very, I don't know, actually kind of underrated, but there's a book that I love where I would say that the writing is significantly better than the art. Like I just think it all depends on the taste. Like I don't know how many, like I'm trying to think like how many great, I feel like Bleach has beautiful art, but it's like horribly written. Like I don't read that for sure. I definitely don't read that. So it's really hard to say. I just feel like, why can't this be a conversation about good practices if you're a writer, an artist? Like I don't understand why that couldn't be the conversation. Like I mean, the reality is that in 2025, the financial burden is on the writers. You
Absolutely.
know, like we just had a conversation about Kickstarter. So again, why, like, if this is a conversation that's, Alan Moore been causing a lot of shit, bro. Like all these Alan Moore conversations have been causing, but why? Like if it's an Alan Moore conversation, how does that get down to me? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like how do we, but nowadays essentially the it's on the writer. So it's like, I feel like that's the give and take, essentially. Like if we're both well established and we make a book together and a publisher does this, then the artist should absolutely, like, get their credit. Well, obviously they get the credit regardless and get all the extra stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like the financial burden balances it out. Like you get paid up front, and then if this don't if this don't make any money, that's on me. You know,
right. Yeah.
I don't see that context being applied. And like I said, I wish I had a hard stance on one or the other. I feel like, I mean, it was so funny that somebody's like, without a art, your comic is prose. I'm like, well, without the writing, it's like a coloring book essentially.
Yeah.
It's so reductive. I don't understand why you'd even feel the need. And I know why they feel the needs, because artists get ripped off, but I'm not gonna say they don't get ripped off at any level, but I feel like generally it's like standard practices to get ripped off working for, like a major publisher.
Yeah, the balance is, it depends. For me, it's always, it depends. It depends on the situation. So the argument about who's more important, and the fact is they're both important in this medium. They're both important because you are essentially combining two interpretation. Well, yeah, two interpretations of a story that comes from one mind. That's the writer's mind. Or it could come from an idea from an artist. Hey, I got this idea, but I'm going to hire you to help me develop it. And so it just depends on who comes with what in terms of the idea, the story, the plot, the character, whatever. And then how you build it that's how it determines whether or not it's a collaboration or a work for hire. Because a work for hire is just someone strictly, I'm here to help you develop it. I'm going to get a writing credit, but I own none of the IP.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to own it, and I'm just going to get my writing credit. You're going to pay me my fee, and I'm going to help you. And then you can either keep me on, or you can hire some other writer to, you know, help you write your story, and vice versa. It also depends on the kind of artist you want to hire to fit the story you want to tell. And you're right. It does boil down to how you practice your technique as a writer, like, because that's part of it. It's not just writing comics is not just about sitting down writing a script. That's part of it. But when you're done with the script and you're done with the plot, you're done with all the things that you developed, you're going to have to find the right artist to tell that story. The example I like to use is the publisher who publishes Smurfs comics. It's not going to hire Tom McFarlane to draw Smurfs, although it might be cool and badass, but that's the wrong choice, because that's the wrong aesthetic, because you're selling a certain product, like you mentioned, you know, a product, right? At the end of the day, you have to sell to your audience, and you have to find the right artist to fit that mold of the story you want to tell.
Honestly, though, I think if you did ask Todd McFarlane to draw Smurfs, he probably would do it just to
just
have
for fun
with it. He'd make them the most dynamic looking Smurfs ever.
Nah, I'd read that. I think something that I'm practicing, and I talked about practicality, right?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with somebody about words. Like it was certain terms, it was certain like technique, the expressing a technique or naming a technique or what have you. And I was like, you know, it was a lot of conversations of like, and especially with nerds, bro. Especially with nerds, bro. Nerds are real. They do this thing that is like, well, actually, you know what I'm saying? Like they really like they think like personality is like nitpicking things. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I mean, we understand that comics are mainstream, but it's so easy to forget that somebody they're nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes these guys are like the comic book salesman on The Simpsons, and they'll be like, yeah, well, it's not this, it's that, and it's like, well, if the definition I'm using communicate, because I talk to a lot of artists, bro. I mean, I think I made my name, like I'm making like involved with 15 books this year. I'm talking to different artists, right? Like I'm talking like on a given day, I can talk to 6, 7, 8 different artists. I have to communicate what works. You know,
yeah.
Sometimes I'll get a note, or sometimes I'll ask somebody and they'll give me this long drawn, no, I shouldn't say long. They give me this really extensive, right? Like multi-part. And they were like, and like, okay, well, and they're like, dude, tell them this. And I'm like, yo, first off, this guy, English isn't his, I don't know if he speaks English. We're using a translator. So there's something gonna get lost in translation.
Yeah, for sure.
And then if I'm not fully understanding what you're saying, I have to then take that and then retell it to somebody else, do the translator, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just like, yo, what gets the job done? Truthfully, what gets the job done? You want to write a skeleton script and then like tell it to the artist, you can do that for sure. Write it to play to their strengths. You can do, I mean, you should do that really. But there's no right way to do things. And I think we get so caught up, or it's not me. People get so caught up in like I think it was Wiki that says right isn't always good or something like that. Like, don't focus on being right. Focus on getting ideas across. And that, I think that's just like the pitfall of like everything, like every conversation on Twitter. It's like, all the comic conversation is like, if somebody could put a hand on the shoulder on somebody that's trying to do this artist versus writer stuff and just be like, bro, it depends. You know what I'm saying? We would save
Yeah.
it would save so much frustration, bro. And it's like that's you can. The last few we need is writer versus artist in any comics. That's
Yeah, no, of
Yeah.
course,
the
of
very
course.
last thing we need, bro.
Yeah.
We need to be on good terms. If anybody needs to be on
Have-
good terms, it needs to be writer and artist.
That would be horrible if all the writer and artists have a civil war against each other, and then it's
Well,
like,
I mean, it's not uncommon. This happened in the past. I know famously Mark Waid and Alex Ross had a big falling out, and I don't know if it was because of that, but it was. I'm pretty sure it was because of creative choices of the ideas for the sequel of Kingdom Come that they were toying around with, and then eventually there was a communication breakdown and a full on like, I'm not gonna work with you. Like, I'm gonna move on to something else, and that was the end of that. But I don't know if that was because of the whole writer and artist thing. But sometimes, some writers do have big egos and they do want their vision the way they want it. And sometimes I find myself doing that sometimes where I tell the artist, look, I'm going to let you do your thing, but there's going to be some pages where I'm going to require a specific thing because it's important to the impact that I want the reader to have. And a lot of the times, if you communicate that with the artist, they'll work with you. They'll be like, okay, cool. As long as you let me do the other stuff with the other pages, I'm fine with 1 or 2 pages or a few pages where you want to like specifically tell me how you want this page laid out. So that's cool.
Imagine I go to Starbucks and I ask for a black coffee and they give me like a caramel frappuccino or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I wanted to make. Like, oh, it's just free? Because this is not the thing. It's like, yeah, you're paying for, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's $27,000.
Yeah. And it's like, it's also, I've also had the benefit, I think, of I try to get better, right? Like I try to get better understanding visual storytelling. I have like a whole folder full of like, whenever I'd read something, I would screen grab it and be like, all right, this looks cool. So I would put that in low for like, okay, how can I I'm trying to speed run, like trying to understand. So I work with the artist at one point, and then later I'm like, okay, cool. So relative, I thought I was down here. Now I'm like right here. So now I feel like I can communicate more, what have you. Maybe my voice means a little bit more. Look, we're paying. So I mean, you can do what you want if you join that bitch for free. You know what I'm saying? It's a free pay. Yeah, go absolutely. Go absolutely saying. I think something that is, maybe under discussed, and again, like, sometimes I think we're getting away. We're losing recipes instead in terms of stereotypes. Because like artists can be like losing recipes.
I've heard of that. Yeah, it's funny.
We're like yeah, we understand that artists can be like temperamental, right? Like we understand that, you know what I'm saying? So it's not just necessarily the writer all the time. Like sometimes the artist, I'll send an artist, one of my artists, they're like, hey, they don't like any of the coloring, you know what I'm saying, that gets done. They're like, hey, it doesn't have the atmosphere, and then they'll show me something that maybe be more atmospheric, but the technique is worse. And it's like, well, me as a producer, me as the financial burden on my shoulders, I'm like, well, I gotta go with the art that is more aesthetically pleasing and has higher technique, because technique is, if you want to talk about objectively good, like having good technique is of the utmost importance.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And because like Scott Pilgrim doesn't look like Sin City, right? But the art is executed really well, right?
Right.
So like that's a concern as well. Like it is, man, working with a writer, like you're a project manager. It is managing egos.
Yeah.
Especially
when you're indie. I would imagine, Marvel, DC, maybe some, I don't know how Dark Horse works, but I know Image that's all indie creator, but
right.
Marvel and DC have, an editorial panel that pretty much determines what's working, what's not working. I imagine that's how it is in Dark Horse, but I'm not sure exactly. But when you're indie, like you Stokes and myself, yeah, it's all on us. We're the ones. We're the last. We're the buck, right? The buck that where it stops, right? It's like that's it. And so we have to decide what's going to work for our vision of what we want the reader to experience when they read our books. So it's go ahead.
I was gonna say, but you as a writer, though, like kind of going with the question though, you as a writer, I mean, when you are marketing and you're promoting your book, are you promoting more of like, okay, here, look at this cool art, or here's like, okay, this is the story I want to tell, and
It's a little bit of both, because you have to
That's
write the elevator pitch, right? The pitch that's gonna get readers to be like, oh, hey, that sounds interesting. And then they'll probably look at the art and be like, wow, the art looks amazing. Now I want this because the premise sounds great and the art is looking pretty rad. So I'm gonna back it or buy it, depending on how you have your storefront set up.
mm-hmm.
I think, you know what, Kyle, I think that's probably one of the best questions that's been asked. Like, I think in regards to this topic, because um again, it all depends. Like, it all depends.
Yeah.
So, like, and this is all okay. Yeah, I keep coming back to this, but this is also what was frustrating about the Kickstarter conversation, is that it really makes it seem like there's only one market, right? Like Kickstarter and your personal website and in stores. I mean, I gave my comics to this dude Adam, and he sold them in weed dispensaries on like spinner racks.
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay, that's a different market. Yeah, I mean,
did that sell well at his shop?
it sold pretty well. I think I have to, like, I think my inventory now, let me not say inventory, I don't want to, my art now would like do better, because I think it's more poppy, like, I guess more stoner.
Okay.
I mean, Aliens I feel like would sell really well, like at a stoner shop, you know what I'm saying?
I think so, yes, for sure.
Yeah,
especially when you have what happens at the, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but what happens at the end is pretty rad. What happens.
yeah, man. Thank you. But at conventions, I'll answer like this: at conventions, it's almost entirely story. It's just a pitch, like, right? It's just you and the person, and it's entirely pitch. On social media, what I've done now is just post art, like, because it's, like, none of us are trying to read for real, bro. Like, nobody's trying to read a whole blog, and like, especially, it's just easier. Like, yo, this looks cool, and then you're like, your aunt can look at a comic book page and be like, oh yeah, that looks nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that looks, it's like visually appealing, right?
Right.
As opposed to like God knows what our comics could be about, right? Like, so I just post art, and on the Kickstarter, I mean, it would probably be mostly art, right? Like, if I'm, I'm one of the NSFW guys, so yeah, I would say art. So I think it really depends, but that is an interesting thing to be like, all right, well, what's driving the bus here?
Yeah, like, I mean, because like you said, every book is different, but I would feel like, because obviously you guys are writers, so I wanted to get your perspective of like, okay, and for artists, I wonder what their perspective is of like, if their main thing is their art and they're trying to work with you to pitch something about the book, do they also go into like the story of it, or do they focus more on, okay, yeah, here's my cool art, look at it first, and then go and read the story?
I guarantee you for the most part. And this is all, and also part of this is just the focus is on writers in the comic. It's weird. Like, writers are de-emphasized in the movie industry.
Yeah.
And they're overemphasized, or rather artists are underemphasized in comics. Now, granted, you brought up Invincible. Invincible had different colorists. It had different pencilers, inkers, or what have you. So that's one reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's part of a reason. When I think of Kingdom Come, I think of Mark Waid and Alex Ross for sure. But Alex Ross has an insane, he's got a one-on-one style, right? So
yeah,
he's one of my favorite artists. Yeah, I have boxes of his artwork in here.
Yeah, the for sure, I agree with you there, Stokes, that the writers do get the glory in the long run of things. The longer seems like I was talking to Kyle about this earlier, and to your point, that's how I told him, when you think of Watchmen, what's the first thing you think of? And he go, Alan Moore. So okay, well, there you go. You don't think of Dave Gibbons. I do. I think of Dave Gibbons because his art was so perfect for Alan Moore's writing that I recognize Dave Gibbons as well. But the common reader, the one who just consumes and doesn't go out of their way to learn the craft or learn about the industry insider, information or any of that. So when I was naming out the books, the first name is, like I told you, X-Men in the 80s, Chris Claremont. And then he worked with a bunch of great artists. But then I mentioned, but in the 90s, X-Men 90s, Jim Lee. Because that he created that look that still revered to this very day. So it's I would say it's kind of like a very civil love-hate relationship between writers and artists, because the writers do get the glory as more time goes on, because the story can be so impactful that the reader just remembers the writer because of what they were able to do to convey those emotions. Like that's why, like for me, Alan Moore's V for Vendetta that's my book. That's the book for me, like that I always go to whenever I talk about Alan Moore.
You described it as Alan Moore's V for Vendetta.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Alan Moore's thing.
And David Lowe's contribution, I can't discount it, but it's just like a habit. It's a habit that we all have, and it's not nefarious or mean spirited. It's just, hey, the story was so powerful that I'm sorry, man, but the writer's got to get the glory a little bit.
And you think about word of mouth, like, and now social media, it's a little bit easier, but you can basically, like, in like the 90s, like if I want to tell you about a comic book, I have to show you the physical, comic book, right? Like, so I think we're still doing that. We're not quite caught up in that way. The thing is, right? It was funny. We're talking about, I love my boy Alan Moore. He keeps coming up, bro.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody, and they were like, Alan Moore doesn't care about marketing. It's like, what are you talking about? The dude with the giant beard, bro. The dude that made a superhero. Stop it. Just get out of my face.
You're wrong. Just leave.
You're wrong. I'll leave it at that. But it's like, that's why we know that's part of the reason why we know Alan Moore is, right? Like, to become very ubiquitous. And like, let's say I'm at a convention. I'm gonna like basically, you can almost put it like as simply as like, writers are the salesman, and artists are like more the introverted type. Of course, you can have vice versa. It can be the inverse. And I think, okay, so I'm gonna say something. I think like part of the problem that writers have is, they may not have the charisma to be salesmen. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what you are essentially doing. And you see it sometimes, like you see with some of the people, I won't name anybody, but it's like a lot of this whole like visibility thing is like, I don't have the influence that I should. I don't have essentially that. And it's like, okay, well, if you got a really big personality, it's easier to take up more space.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was on the stream with Mindy Wheeler, and bro, it's like I can't imagine. I feel like I have a pretty big personality. I feel like I was shrinking. I feel like I was shrinking in my seat. It's like those are the kind of, they're going to take up a lot of space. So I think it's that's the big thing as well.
Yeah. I still struggle with that, actually. That's one of my biggest hurdles, is to kind of find, I guess, my voice in becoming what I like to call tapping your inner Stan Lee. Because Stan Lee, I think, I believe, and I think it's everyone will agree, he was the ultimate salesman for comics. And say what you will about Stan Lee and the whole thing with the Marvel and Jack Kirby stuff. At the end of the day, you can't take away the fact that he went out of his way to tour the country and eventually the world to sell comics, to tell people comic books is the way to go. You guys are missing out on some of the best stories. Yes, better than TV. Yes, better than movies. They're in comics. Check them out. We got great artists. I mean, he was like the best salesman for comics. And I think everyone's, especially indie creators like myself, you Stokes, who rely on crowdfunding, who rely heavily on just for the time being of selling our books because I guess for lack of a better term, the celebrity, status is not there yet because we haven't proven ourselves yet to the readers as being like equal to the Frank Millers or the Alan Moores or the Chris Claremonts and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, that's been my biggest obstacle for sure.
The industry may not. This is a thing in the rap industry, right? And I think what's interesting is all these, because I like a lot of different entertainment. If you look at the rap music in general, and you look at movies and video games, they're all in comics. They're all saying the same thing. Like it's art. It's a commerce over art, right? And there's this guy. And he was talking. He was like, I don't think we'll ever get another rap superstar. If you think, I don't know how big you guys are into the genre, but like, I know you guys know who, like, Drake and Kendrick and J. Cole are. And it's like, do you know who Tyler the Creator is?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Kyle don't know who Tyler the Creator is, right?
I like Eminem.
Travis Scott?
I've heard of him, yeah. Travis Scott.
You've heard of him, right? So, like, essentially, the industry doesn't have the infrastructure for Kyle to know who Tyler the Creator is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you said Eminem. Eminem was a superstar. He was the big megastar. Lil Wayne, Jay-Z. These were megastars. They were unavoidable. The industry may not have the framework for a Frank Miller or an Alan Moore or whoever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's shifting around.
Yeah.
So much. So who knows? Like, like if that's even.
Do you listen to Rob Liefeld's podcast?
No, bro. He was shitting on the Thunderbolts, and it seemed like really petty. I was kind of like, man, I don't really rock with this guy, bro. I ain't go.
He has some pretty good points. I like listening to his podcast because I don't agree with obviously with everything he says, but there's a lot of good knowledge, good information that he provides amongst the Rob Liefeld ism, right? The way he presents himself. And he did mention something that was very interesting. He did say that Marvel, the comic book publishing company, not the movie division, he pretty much said that they don't want superstars anymore. It's not the fact that they don't have the resources. They just don't want them because they don't want a repeat of image. They don't want people to get so big and they leave and then they go on and do their indie books, their owned IP, which is, to me, doesn't make any sense because that's what keeps the industry healthy.
That's what James Tinian did, didn't he? Didn't he do Batman?
Yeah. And then now he's doing his own thing. He's doing his own thing, and that's good for him because that's the way, in my opinion, it should be. Either in life in general, like, you got to know your role, right? What's your role in life? We all at some point, at least I hope so anyway, come to that question. What's my role in life? What do I want to accomplish in my life? And some writers or artists have no problem being the cog in the machine. Like, I'm fine drawing Marvel and DC, and that's all I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But there's other people who are just so grand that they have to go out and like expand and do their own thing. Mark Miller is a prime example of that. He took off from Marvel and did his Miller World, and now he has a Netflix deal that he does, comic books for. So
I ain't seen one of them shows come out. Not one of them shows have I seen come out from that Mark Millar thing. I think what's interesting as well is do these this applies to me for sure. It's like, all right, are you right? It's like, we don't need you. It's like, all right,
freaking ink spots.
Welcome to the show, by the way. Anybody really on a Kickstarter that is really a big personality? You know what I'm saying? Like, truthfully,
you don't think there is?
Well, when I say big, I guess I mean like when you say in terms of celebrity.
Okay. Gotcha.
I don't like if like I'm talking about like how many people that run Kickstarters are even regularly guessed at cons. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I think it's rare.
Yeah.
My boy Pat, yeah. But he worked, he's done a lot of really big stuff. Worked with Zenescope. did Angel, all that stuff. So it's like, okay, that's one I can think of. So it's like, all right, again, do we have the infrastructure in the industry for this? But it's also like, if it feels. And another thing where I empathize, I'm a very empathetic person. I empathize with the opposite side in that it's like it just feels like shut off. You know what I'm saying? Like it just
Yeah.
it,
Oh
it,
yeah.
it feels like locked in. It's like there, you know, it just feels hard to get like make progress in that sense as well. And I don't think the infighting helps at all. You know what I'm saying?
No.
I think it's like very detrimental. Like I know there's a lot of people that like I could probably be cool with that I'm at odds with, because it's like we had one bad I just said I ain't say F Rob Liefeld, but I would have based off of that that one post I saw. It's like, you know, it's like you get yourself out there. I feel like it's like almost like a graph. Like you have to put yourself out there. You have to have a certain amount of success before you put too much of yourself out there. I feel like
yeah, that it's what
like
they call
Yeah.
I'm gonna break my rule, Kyle.
trajectory.
Yeah, it's what they call fuck you money, right? When you receive fuck you money.
Well, I just mean that like I just mean, you know, they say like, or not they say, but you live a hero or live long enough to see yourself.
Right. Yeah.
On
Yeah.
an infinite timeline, right? Granted that you had to tweet like 3 times a day, you're gonna say something that you should. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna you know what I'm saying, or you're gonna turn. But and it's
Sorry,
so
Unhinged. I apologize.
I think it's so interesting because there's like different pockets of. I think indie comics is also very decentralized, especially with Twitter.
Oh, 100%.
For sure.
When Twitter was popping, it felt like everybody was like in a couple of places. Now I feel like they're all over the place. And so for me, I feel like there's like the younger people, and you know, we grew up on rap music, wrestling, blah blah blah. So I remember I came into and I'm like, yo, I'm gonna do my thing, and people had a real problem with that. They're like, yo, they'll be like, yo, I'm gonna do my thing. I would do. You're talking about signatures, paying for signatures. I made a post saying like, yo, like how much? I was like, something like, oh, do you charge for signatures? People were like, you're a nobody. I was like, then why?
Wait, you charge for signature, Stokes?
I said, why do they want my signature if I'm a nobody? It is you would want a signature for perspective value. So what would be the problem with that, right? Like, now they don't know that you need to get it graded and all that stuff for that stuff, but they don't,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Do I charge for signatures? No.
Okay.
Do I think it'd be morally wrong? No, not at all. Like, because you go to a con. I think any artist can learn to write a competent story in a pretty short amount of time. A writer might be able to draw. I just disagree with that. I just think some people at their core aren't like good storytellers. Like, you ever have that relative that starts a story and like, no, where did this end up? I mean, you're like, oh yeah, nah, no, thank you.
Ink spots, that could be true to a certain extent, but you just never know. Everybody's different. There's some people I knew a few people who never drew a day in their life, and they just one day decided to want to draw, and within like 2 or 3 years they were drawing fantastic stuff because they found their stride. They found what they like to draw. Not comic books. It's not comic book already. It's just like, they're painting for fun or whatever. But within a 2-3 year period, I was like, dude, what the hell, you painted this? Oh my, dude, you just started like 3 years ago. But it's because of dedication, just like anything else. It just depends. Passion, yeah.
And I think another big word that here is that consistency too.
Yes, consistency is huge for sure. I'm not a big fan of signatures being.
Can I finish the?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
No, I get you. You got to answer the chats. No, for sure. It's like when you go, like, let's say you go to, you got to pay for the ticket. Sometimes you got to pay for parking. The food prices. It's like you get taxed when you go to a convention. Like, if I go to an amusement park, there's certain places where I'm just spending money, right? Like, I go on vacation. I go to an amusement park. I go to the mall. I go to like the movies. Like, I went to, I spend $40 on like the experience. I want the experience, right? Mm-hmm. So you can get taxed on every single thing. And then it's like, yo, can I get $2.99 for a signature? It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like the because there's a face, it's just not okay. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was like 99 cents for a pack of ketchup, people would be like, they would not like that, but they would be
Riots.
disgusted. They would spit in your face if you asked for 99 cents for a signature, bro. And I'm gonna be honest, bro. I'm be trying. If you at my con table, if we vibing, right? Like we having a good time, whatever. But after I make the sale, bro, go that away or go that away, bro. Because you taking up literal real estate. I need to sell more books. You know what I'm saying? Like I spent $3,000 the previous week on interior pages. Like I need to make the sale. And so when somebody's like, when they're like, oh, I'll take 10 books. Like, yeah. Will you sign them? It's like, oh my God. Because then you got to kind of cascade them so that the ink can dry on the signatures. You got to kind of stack them a specific way. So it's just, for me, it's like, I just like, I don't want to say like get your stuff and leave, but not at all. But
get out of here.
Spend, like that's not good time spent, I guess. Like in terms of like servicing the customer, yes, but in terms of like looking down, you're looking down too, right? So it's like, you're not able to look up. So I get anxious when I'm doing signatures. Again, I would not charge. I can't imagine a scenario where I would charge for a signature, but I just think like it's funny. It's funny like how, again, the individual, the swell guy said like, oh, you're a nobody. You know what I'm saying? But like,
yeah,
I mean, not anymore, you know, but essentially like, you want my signature, it's got value, it adds perspective value, but I can get the value back. All right, cool, okay. It's just, I feel like indie comic creators like they like gatekeep themselves, like they tie their hands behind their back. And it's like, again, I'm a practical guy. I'm never putting myself at a disadvantage in any situation, you know, but personally.
Well, you know, I've always, you know, there's a lot of, you know, compromises that I've seen, you know, some artists and writers do where they do like the first 3 or 5 are free. And then after that, then,
you know what, I'm fine with that, because you do have those people that pull up on their wagons full of books for the writer to sign, you know? And so that's kind of ridiculous at that point. And
I'd be like, yo, you got to come back at the end of the show, bro. Like, you gotta come back like, what do you mean? You bought a whole short box of my stuff. I got to sit here and sign, bro.
That's what happened with Ryan Otley with the Invincible, is that somebody brought a wheelbarrow full of stuff. And what he did was he would do like stacks of like, so he'd do like a little batch of the wheelbarrow people, and then he'd go and move on to the normal line of his just regular signatures, and then go back to a stack of signatures, and then just kind of go back and forth.
And
but
he's
then
there to sign stuff, right? I'm not. I'm there to sign. I'm there to sell books. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, he ain't got nothing to sell. He's damn Ryan Otley. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
exactly. Exactly.
You know, we're season 3 of Invincible, all that. Also, fun fact, I got one of the colors from Invincible to work on. One of the books I'm on, American Yakuza, which is like,
oh, nice, dude.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, John Ross. I don't know if I should stop name dropping.
Well, you know, you dropped one, so hey, that.
Yeah, brag a little, you know. It's like, you know,
I read Invincible for the first time recently. I was like, oh my god, that's it.
Travis Gibbs says I only charge for CGC. Oh, see, that's fair. That's fair. You know, CGC books. That makes sense. As an indie creator, if someone wants a signature, I feel like I just need to sign it. Just glad to sell books. Yeah.
I think the thing is though, right? Like it's up to you.
Yeah.
I feel like some people, well, at least as it was explained to me, it's like, oh my God, like I just like get on my knees and kiss the feet of whoever buys my comics. I'm like, yo, I appreciate you, but you got a good product. Well, that's a win-win. You know what I'm saying? Like, back me up, and then we go on about it. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel like, and this, I think I come from a bit of a sales background as well. And I would never try to convince somebody of anything, you know, in this regards, but it does feel like when I came into Twitter in early 2023, I think, or early 2022, it was a lot of self-defeatist. It was almost like people were having a race to the bottom, where it's like, well, my car didn't start this morning. Oh, didn't sell any comics this week. It's like, yo. And I was like, bro,
bunch of Debbie Downers over here.
Yeah,
like, yo, what's up, bro? I got rejected by another publisher, like type stuff, and I'm like, yo, I just think that I think there's a generational divide, like which I kind of alluded to earlier, where I was like, yo, I gotta be the voice that like people that relate to, you know what I'm saying, like a boisterous personality, somebody like that. And I was like, nah, yeah, I'm lit. You know, my comics doing this, doing that. Yo, can I try? I would just ask questions, and I got called a nobody. Don't bother me none. And
That's
people
crazy,
didn't like
dude.
it.
That people who go out of the way to do that kind of thing. Man.
Yeah. And that's but to my point, that was a completely reasonable. That person wasn't trying to be dismissive or rude. And you could even argue that they were stating
Gotcha.
a fact. You could also argue that. Like you could still
Right.
argue I'm still a nobody. But that just is I think is a reflection. It's hard to imagine saying that to somebody now on Indie Comics Twitter. I feel like the general mood has changed. And I was like, yeah, I was just trying to be somebody that was like more
let me ask you this: what makes someone a somebody then?
Listen, this is a very
loaded question there, Julius.
This is what makes something art versus a product. You know, this is one of those things. I mean, really, truthfully, I feel like, what makes you a somebody? It's an interesting question.
Now, I can answer that from a reader's perspective. It's when you get published by a Marvel or DC or Image or Dark Horse. I'm going by reader's perspective because at one point I was a reader myself with no ambition to write my own books, as you know, early in my youth. So when I would go to the cons and wait in line to get my book signed, I went to the writers who were published by Marvel or DC Comics or Image because they were the name brand. They were the people who I knew of because they were writing and drawing the books that I was buying every Wednesday at the comic shop. So that's how I see it for that in terms of what makes someone a somebody, quote unquote. But
I just think that's very specific, right? Like when we talk about, well, again, I think these conversations should, and you're speaking from a reader perspective, but you haven't been a reader for a long time, right? So like,
right,
things have changed, like. Because back in the day, there was no Kickstarter. There was no crowdfunding.
Right. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
At that point, it was like, yo, if I recognize you at a convention, I feel as if, because I would say I'm making some noise on Kickstarter. You know, I wouldn't say, I'm definitely not nobody. I think I'm like the top 10 percentile in terms of highest project gross or whatever. That's making noise, right? Like being recognized.
No, yeah, you're definitely gaining your readership, which is important.
If you're getting readership, then you're somebody, right?
Like, yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. In today's decentralized system that we're in right now, because like you mentioned earlier, how everything's decentralized. You're absolutely right. It is, and now it's people are indie writers or creators in general are vying for readers to create their readership, their base, so that way they can get that base and hopefully grow from that growth, because it's all upward from here for you. I think. I mean, I've seen you grow. I've seen you go from what was the name of your first book that you Decay, and now you have what 5-6 books now, maybe even more, a lot more. Yeah, see, there you go. And just like in Hollywood or everything else, growth is the sign of success in terms of how much units you sold, right? A director who did a first indie movie that the budget was like 10 million, but it grossed 40 million. Now they're going to get a movie that's going to be a bigger budget and so on and so forth, as long as they keep making money. So good on you, man. Congratulations on
I don't want to, I don't want to, I mean, hey, you're going to twist my arm. I'll accept the praise.
It's like, sure. if you're really nagging me, I'll take it.
Hey, I gotta recognize game when I see it.
I mean, and listen, and it's so interesting because I come from a background, I guess it's more personal. Like, I come from a background where, I wouldn't say like very, very, very adjacent to like inner city. I'm saying like I guess if you're picking up what I'm putting down, it was rough. People were dismissive. I've been dismissed my entire life, and it was always I never had a rebut. You know, I was always like, I never had, and then now it's like, all right, I couldn't say this, I couldn't say that because this person had this, that, this, that. And then
Right.
now it's at a point where I'm like in indie comics and I'm like, well, the numbers are on my side. But it's
Right.
almost like
Yeah.
what I realized was messed up is like you can speculate or weaponize somebody's Kickstarter numbers if they're successful, but they can't weaponize them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Yeah.
I can't say, Godfo, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't make money on Kickstarter. I do. I can't say that.
Right.
I did. I just did. But I
Mhm.
I shouldn't say that. And I think like, but they're free to speculate and, you know, go crazy, you know, which I feel like it should be a two-way street. Personally, maybe that says a lot about me. But it's just, yeah, it's crazy. I think also like another thing which I thought was interesting was it's not just readers we're trying to, it's like artists too. Like
Right. Yeah.
for a
Mhm.
while, I was getting my artist recommended to me by other writers. And then at a certain point it became other artists were recommending me artists.
Mm.
So I'm like, hey, are you good for this project? No, I got my boy. You know,
Right.
like stuff
Yeah.
like that. And it's all I was saying talking this about Tyler because to me it feels like an arms race. You know, like it feels like we're trying to buy, or maybe Monopoly might be a better metaphor. Like I'm trying to buy the boardwalk. I want everything blue. What was it before that? Purple. I'm trying to get that whole strip before it go. I'm trying to stack up. I
Right.
want a apartment building
Hotels.
complex. I
Yeah.
want hotels, bro. I want a Six Flags on that. And that's where I get excited. Where I'm like, I got like a Rolodex of artists that I could talk to. That's lit. You know, I got inventory. I got Matt, bro. I didn't know. I bought so I did the can. I was like, oh, this is the comic I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. So I got 1,000 copies of a particular cover. It's like, oh, the margins will be so good. I still have like 500 copies in my closet, you know. But when I do a bunch of conventions, it's nice. So it's like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
something I like. Is like readership is important for sure. But I also think like it's nice to have like the other stuff that I think people don't necessarily talk about.
Right.
Much.
Yeah. I think that's your industry as a creator. That's something that the readers don't really. I don't want to say they don't care about it. They probably just aren't unaware of that factor.
Yeah.
Of our world. And have you had artists actually hit you up saying, hey, I want to work with you after reading some of your books? Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I would like to. Here's what I hope is the case, and truthfully, and this is something I take a lot of pride in. I have an artist I work with a bunch. I'm seeing them grow. I'm seeing them get significantly better. And they were like, yeah, I like working with you. I was like, okay. And I was like, for a while, I was like, okay, I got some coming up. I promise you, I got some. And then a year later, they're on so much stuff. I got them so much work that they earned. I was like, got them. But and now they have a bunch of projects that they're on. They're like, man, I feel like you really care about the artist. You care about the art. And what I hope is like, all right, I hope we're just understanding. We're helping each other get better. You know. And then when I hope when I talk about my art, oh, there I go. When I talk about the artists I'm working with, I really try to showcase them. I really try to show. I try to show their best pages. I try to be like, what do y'all think? I try to get engagement, and hopefully, I will hope that it's like, oh, artists be like, I want to work with that.
Right. Yeah.
So especially if you're on Facebook, it's almost spam. But I have had artists be like, man, I want your books in my portfolio. Which is that's a crazy nice thing to hear, that's
absolutely.
That's insane. Like, so no, yeah, I really pride myself on having like great looking books, like really a lot of good visual storytelling, really, really dynamic artwork.
Sounds like you're marketing more the artist than the story.
Hey, I'm the NSFW guy, it's just,
speaking of your work, let's talk about IDAF aliens.
You can't say IDGAF.
It's just so much easier to say IDAF, but no, I'll respect the title. So Is this currently on the crowdfunding, or is this something that you're selling aftermarket? You already raised funds and now you're doing it through your website?
So Aliens 1 is already done.
Okay.
And I have late pledges on there. And then Aliens 2 is in pre-launch.
Okay, pre-launch. Got it.
So I'll send that over.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen if you like, and I'll put up the page.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then also you can put the link in the chat as well.
Yeah. Send me the link too, and I'll put it in the chat. Or any of the wrenchers out there in the chat, if you have his link, go ahead and share it if you like.
Because we're a very high production.
Of course,
budget
it's like
value
the best. It's the best show on YouTube right now. They don't even know it.
Everything's all planned out. Nothing ever goes wrong on this
I'm getting
channel.
all these compliments. I think I might be entitled to agree with you.
Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy. Thank you for being here again on a Friday night.
So let me see. Boom, boom.
Thank you, Unhinged. I appreciate the vote of confidence.
We blow through the budget every single show.
Every time, never fails.
So I gaff about Aliens. It was funny. I was talking to my boy Chris Moses, and he's big into aliens conspiracies. And this is when I think it was Mexico had revealed they found like a UFO or some adjacent, to that, some alien related. He was like, "Man, you don't care about that." And I was grinding. You was talking about grinding. I'm like, "Man, I'm like, my money's getting low. I got a bunch of projects I'm sitting on." And he was like, you don't care about this? And then this title was my response to that.
I was about to ask you how you got the title, but that's a great story of how you got it. That's cool.
It is really cool. And of course I have like an alien book in the frame as well. It is kind of like a cool juxtaposition, of course. And I mean, I was like, yo, what if it's a guy that's like late for something? Like he was late for class. Like he needs this great, and then he gets abducted. It's like, yo, I call it like anti-world building. You know what I'm saying? It's like you'll show something, you don't elaborate on it. Just because it's like, and Lucy knows what I'm talking about. Like, just because it's like, yo, I don't have time for this. It's like,
and that's what worked. That's what worked with the story when I read it. I was like, this is great. I like this, that you don't elaborate. You just go right into it, and we just go, for lack of a better term, go with the flow of the story.
Exactly. Well, exactly. And I love everything, right? Truthfully, I do love every genre of storytelling. Like which is also why part of some of these conversations are weird to me. Cause like I like manga, I like comedy, I like Watchmen, I got everything. If it's high quality, bro, they just made a Predator animated movie. I can't wait to watch that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's lit. But I love comedies, and I feel like I wasn't able to scratch that comedy itch, and then I did Aliens 1, and I just got a super great artist with Patrick Mulholland.
Yeah, very good artist for sure.
My colorist Alessandro Ruggiero, the colorist Alessandro Ruggiero. This one's gonna be a hard one to kick, but I'm gonna work on it. They did a great job, and it was a super successful campaign. Probably one of the biggest successes of my life, frankly. And when you're doing stuff for 2 years, I remember it was a big thing. And when I say I empathize, it's like it was a big thing. That's like, oh, you're never gonna make like $10,000 on a campaign, right? And I went from like not doing the 10,000, went from 10,000 to 20,000, like in one swoop. So it was like an insane leap. And I just love the book. I love the colors. And it's just something really fun. And I think one last call back to the conversation. I think this is what Tyler was trying to say, or he was saying that things can be fun. I think it's like things can be light, right? Like Scott Pilgrim, I think, is a great book. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of things that push the medium forward aren't necessarily the most serious things, like Calvin and Hobbes, I think, like Garfield.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely right.
So I wanted something that was like in that vein. Still beautiful, still got some beautiful artwork, a lot of visual storytelling, we don't really. This is actually also one of my friends is like horrible at getting back to me, and I was like, how could I get him to like call me or whatever? I was like, yo, what if I had to what if I had to like fake a wedding to get him to like show up? Which was like a bit of a spoiler, but we proceed. One of my favorite pages.
Yeah, very, very well done. I mean, this whole book is like I said, from beginning to end, it grabs onto you and it doesn't let you go, and it just kind of like it reminds me a little bit like that scene from what was it, X-Men Future Days of Future Past?
Days of Future Past.
Yeah, and where Quicksilver gets Magneto's head and he runs to the front, and like that's how I felt with this book. It's like grabs you and like, all right, let's go, and then takes you in. And then by the time you're like, oh, it's over. Oh, dude, because it just flows. It just goes right into.
Not that
the
it's
story
a quick read.
doesn't hold back.
You know, it's. I feel like it's it's a hefty read, 28 pages, but I get you.
28 pages is a hefty read? No, dude, no way.
28 pages, yeah.
Nah, that's not a hefty read.
Oh well, I'm trying to sell the book.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, dude, my bad. My mistake. Go on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Yes.
And then Patrick was so great. He's so great. He's so talented. I couldn't get him back for the second one. And then so I got Pablo Munoz, who I think does. Oh my god, I just love the look of this book. Honestly, I think it gives me kind of like not quite 90s vibes. I don't know where to place it, but
these are pages from the second issue.
This from the second book. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. It is different, but you're right. It's like a little bit more.
I don't know. It's a little retro.
Yeah, but still works though.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't like it's hard, but man,
you definitely are the
whole book. This is every page.
So who is this character? Because I don't think I saw her in the first issue. Who is this character?
Yeah, this is the warden. Essentially, he if you remember, he illegally parks the car that he stole.
Yes.
And as a result, because he illegally parked, he ends up in Area 51.
Nice.
And then she's the warden. And so she's kind of got like almost like I'll say like a dominatrix kind of vibe a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like she's like she's so it's like very fun. She's almost like kind of like built like a like a Miss Incredibles, I guess.
I see.
And her thing is that she's like very by the book. Like she'll do anything to protect like the country. She's very patriotic. So it's like she's very strict. Like so it's a good juxtaposition with God.
Okay.
Who's like incompetent, as you know, like he's kind of an idiot. So it's like a good back and forth. And yeah, no, I mean, I'm so excited to have this book, and I cannot wait to have it in my hands, show people. And I sincerely take a lot of pride in the way that the book looks and the creative team we put together. So I just hope everybody checks it out.
Cool.
All right, sounds good. Well,
and when is this gonna? I'm sorry, Kyle. When is this gonna launch?
End of June. I'm thinking in like June.
Oh, okay, 20th. So right around the corner then.
Yeah.
That's great. Kyle, do you have any questions about the?
No, it seems like definitely the art is fantastic looking. I mean, like whoever you got the artist on it's funny. It's a funny concept to begin with.
Yeah,
I haven't read it yet, but
that story,
I'm definitely
that was me.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's a little bit of the whole writer versus artist debate, But it's at the end of the day, though, the best case scenario is when you have a great artist and a great writer, and they both combine and merge perfectly.
Agreed.
That's what we all strive to get. And I think that's when you really see the superstar, the most notable, comic books that were ever created is when that merger happens. And I think that there's a lot of potential out there. I think that there's
I gotta address that when you're done. As soon as you're done, leave that up. But finish your point. Land that plane, and then.
I was just gonna say that there's a lot of great artists and great writers out there, and there's a lot of great combinations out there that's yet to be discovered. And I think there's definitely gonna be a time where the right artist and the right writer is gonna get together, and then it's just going to take off.
I agree.
And comic books is just gonna come right back. And I think we're gonna hopefully get close to that time soon. And if it hasn't already, but you never know. It's just could be right around the corner, like you said. But this, discussion of writers versus artists and who's better, it's like you said, very opinionated and very subjective.
Yeah.
But like I said, every artist, they both contribute to the combination of the book. So, anything else that you want to say, Julius, about it?
No. I wanted him to elaborate on the Inkspot's comment there. But if I know you have to go, so if you can either stick around for a little longer, or if you have to go, man, you could just take off, and then I'll just stay on the show.
Well, I just want to say, it was great having you on. It was great talking with you. As my motto always says, every time we do stuff like this, it's a new experience, and we always want to try to build those experiences. Remember always to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, watch our older videos. This channel is always about people having conversations and talking and just having fun, and that's what we want to do. And especially with you guys watching, comment in the chat. Obviously, we love talking with you. Don't be shy. Don't you can always talk to us. We'll be happy to have you on, and we can just talk about whatever you want to talk about. We're some chill guys. That's all we are. We're some chill guys.
We're some West Coast California chill guys,
And always remember, read more comics.
Absolutely. All right, Kyle, are you gonna take off?
With that, I'm gonna take off. I have some family visiting, so I'd like to go and see them a little bit. So, it was a pleasure meeting you, Anthony.
Absolutely.
And it was great having a great discussion, and I think I'm looking forward to reading your book and seeing you again.
Appreciate you, man. Take care, bro.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you, Kyle.
Bye, guys.
It's like situations like this, I'm like, all right, how do I respond to this, right? Like, is there a right way to respond to this kind of thing? Because I don't know if Inkspots is like saying this in earnest, right? I don't know if it's a joke.
I'm thinking. Well, here the thing about the chat is that we like to joke around here.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of like like laid back. Like we're all like having fun here and joking around. So I take that as a joke. Like he's being funny,
facetious.
Yeah, facetious. There you go.
Yeah. No, that does bother me. The comments do bother me because like it is a lot, and bro, it's a lot of work. I'm gonna assume Inkspots. I was gonna go into the whole thing, but you know what? It's late, especially on the East Coast. And I'm gonna say Inkspots, agree to disagree.
Well, real quick, give us the footnote. I know you were on the live stream with was it Angus? Was it the Angus Review? I forget the name of this channel. Shout out to him.
Black Angus Reviews. Yeah.
Black Angus Reviews. Okay, and you were on with Godfo and Tyler got on there, and you guys had a discussion about marketing, I guess, boobs in comics to make money. And so, if you want to give a footnote about that, you go right ahead if you like.
I think simply put, like there are people, like the people that were named, they're involved in the topic. It's kind of like they don't know what they're talking about. Like they don't read the comics, like, yeah, I mean, there they go. there they go. We have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have fun here. It's all like as Crenshaw says, silly goose time, or as Tyler would say on his show, silly goose time.
Silly goose. Yeah, no. So I feel like, God, I would say for God, I mean, BA doesn't even have a comic book, which I realized that he has a prose book, but he doesn't have a
Yeah.
comic book. Godfo doesn't, or he has a couple comic books, I believe. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm just saying like a fact. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, and it's I just feel like there's a lot of misinformation. I feel like there's a lot of judgment, and you can have a moral problem, right? With the etc. I will entertain that conversation for sure. But to look at that artwork, in sincerity, to look at that artwork and say, this is like, it just sells because of the boobs. It's a disingenuous. It's I would ask you like, yo, I'm gonna come back to you in 3 months. You tell me if you come up with a premise as fun as this one, that people would be, to that instant. Let me not even go there. So essentially they feel a lot like, I think they attribute that to our success more than is applicable. Like, I think I fulfill all my campaigns. That's part of it, like building up an audience.
I see. Okay.
I think the art looks great. I think I might even say objectively great. If and I think like it's well organized. Those I think if I had I would definitely make money regardless. But I think the amount, if we're and it's also like annoying that, again, we're talking about money, which is a spotty place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Talking
for
about,
sure.
right?
For sure.
Like,
Yeah.
you kind of sound like a douchebag if you're like, well, I don't think, I think it would have made half as much money if I had, if I hadn't established a relationship with my previous backers. Something undiscussed is I had a strategy, right? Because I was like, I really wanted to hit this 10K. I mean, bro, it was keeping me up at night.
Right.
And I have my series. One of my series is Fun to Kill People, which is my favorite, one of my personal favorite series. And then I had my other series, Cyborg Girlfriend, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do Cyborg Girlfriend that'll lead directly into Aliens. Okay. And then basically that one made $9,000, and then the Aliens made 22,000, and it was a direct lead in that helped with that as well.
Right.
And I remember Tony was like, he's just selling porn. It's just porn, blah, blah. But it's like, yo, that's a literal, I can literally tell you the strategy that led up to the sale. I think that just perfectly illustrates, if you look at that and say, if you're looking at that and you tell me that doesn't matter, the boobs are the most important thing, music sequencing doesn't matter. Like, that's essentially, sequencing is important, right? In music.
Right.
Is that important in comics? So it's man, don't get me started.
No, hey, look, we my take is this. I don't have a problem with it personally. Mm-hmm. I never have. It's just not my cup of tea, so I stay away from it. I don't give it money. I don't pay any attention to it. But I can see the allure, because I'll admit, full disclosure, I used to buy Danger Girl comics when it was out. Yeah. And Danger Girls, I don't know if you guys have not heard or know of the book Danger Girl, drawn by J. Scott Campbell. That's pretty much just boobs. Like every issue is that, but there's a story to it and everything, and so there's substance to that. But for me, the way I see it is, we're all vying for the same thing, right? We all want to reach that certain level where we could do this comfortably as a living, and you have your way of doing it. I have my way of doing it. Everyone else around, outside of us, has their way of doing it, and there is no wrong way of doing it. Is my take on it. If it works for you, great. That's fantastic. More power to you. I wish you all the success in the world, because the more work you put into it, the more success you deserve. So I always say, hey, if the boobs help, why not? Why not do it? That's my take.
Do you consider Aliens a boob book?
No. After reading it, no. But hold on. But to be fair,
that crazy?
But to be fair, if I had not known about that book and I had seen those covers that you scroll through, it comes off at like that for me, in my opinion.
For me, I think we should, which is valid, and the consumer perspective is important, right?
Yeah.
But I think we should. That's kind of my point, though. Is if you look at the, I don't know if you looked at the campaign. That was Aliens number 2, but I think like we should kind of redefine what we understand to be a booby book. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's a dig. I mean, well, this conversation will be a response to that. Like I said, like I'm to see, I'm not gonna take the, I don't want to say bait, but like I said, if you think that's the only reason why, you're right, bro. I ain't arguing with somebody at almost midnight. But I guess I would want to redefine because, right, when I'm at a convention, I'm not selling sex. You know what I'm saying? I'm selling like
right. Yeah, you're selling your work for sure.
I'm selling my work, right? And I don't have the NSFW covers on. I can't have them there, but I also like that's not what that audience wants.
Right.
So when it's on Kickstarter, it's gonna be sexed up because that's what the market wants. You know what I'm saying? So
I see. Okay.
Like I said, if you look at that page has a pitch. It has a story. Like the title is it's not the pitch, but the title does tell you a lot about the tone. It tells you there's a lot of visual storytelling that thank you, Freddie, that would be when you say it's a boo, not you, but when it's a boo book, you're
Right.
dismissing a lot, right? Like, and that is fine. You know what I'm saying? That's 100% fine. That's the way. I'm gonna cry with my X amount of money if I can see if you had 45. I mean 45. This is what I'm saying. But do you see how the conversation? I don't. The conversation.
Well, again, everyone has their own take and their own ideas of what it is.
No, but I'm saying, but
you're explaining you're explaining that that's not the case, and you're 100% right. After reading it, yeah, at the end of it, I was like, oh, this is not a book. This is a great comedy comic book.
I guess my point is just that look at the way the conversation goes. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm illustrating my point, and then it's kind of just like, shut up, you may do, which is fine. I'll live with that, but I do think it is indicative of how conversations about this go. I feel like I'm articulating myself well. I'm not denying that it helps. I'm just saying it's not the end all be all.
Right.
And there is plenty, because also when you say like it has 45 covers, it's like people are buying PDFs. You know what I'm saying? People are buying the physical copies that are the regular, like people were interested in the story. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was a draw as well. You know, like that, I get that. That's my primary point. There's a lot of character in there. There's a lot of tone in there. There's a lot of intent.
Right. Yeah.
On these pages, like you'll never go to my page and not have the story. You know, they're all really high concept. So, like I said, I think the discourse around it is bad. It is what it is. That's when you make the decision to do this, that is ultimately what you are signing up for. But I do think it's important to note that you read the book and you liked it. You know, like I think we should we should really, obviously you can take a look at a book and judge it, but I think we should really hold our full judgment until we've actually read the books. That's my
100% for sure. It's definitely a conversation we can have on a different day and elaborate on that. But again, I personally don't care either way, because we all have our own way of doing things, and that's okay too. But I think that sums up our show, man. I think that's, unless you have any final thoughts you want to share before I call it a night.
No, this was absolutely, thank you for having me. This was a great show. I think like conversations like these are important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime you can get in front of a camera and kind of explain your perspective and at least try to communicate ideas, you should. And I appreciate anybody who's doing a comic book show, because I feel like a lot of times it can be thankless.
Yeah, right.
When I first came in, there was dozens of comic book shows, and they just started dropping like flies for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Which is another rung missing from that elevator.
Right.
But so thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me. I kept it PG-13.
Yeah.
Hey,
thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let me get some stuff off, bro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Where can people find you?
At Twitter at Stokes the Writer. My website is up. If you like digital comics, my website is up, decaycomic.com, and then Kickstarter, Anthony Stokes. You can find me as well.
Cool. Well, with that said, I think we had a good conversation regarding the the discussion about writers and and artists, and I think Kyle said it best. It's writers and artists should always strive to find their perfect dance partner. And I think, speaking of Nandor, you mentioned Nandor Fox earlier. He tweeted, he responded to my tweet about the breakdown of between a collaboration and work for hire, in response to the whole talk. And he called it finding a perfect dancing partner. You don't step on, you try not to step on each other's toes as you're dancing. And I thought that was a great analogy, because that's essentially what I strive for when I
Right.
work on my stuff. I hope to find an artist that we can mesh well and create something special that people will enjoy, readers will enjoy, and come back for more. So it's always a matter of finding the right dance partner at the end of the day when it comes to this topic. And again, it's comic books. So why not have fun making comic books? That's the whole point too. Have fun making comic books. And again, I'm trying to change the discourse from drama farming to actually to a dialogue, a debate, drama farming to a dialogue. Because I think I'm a believer that a dialogue, both parties gain from each other's perspectives. You may not agree on everything, but there might be something that you say where I end up going like, oh, I never thought of that way. And then, or maybe something I say and you go like, oh yeah, wow, I never thought of it that way either. And then we gain from the dialogue. So I'm glad you reached out and wanted to be on the show and have a discussion about this, because I'm always about, and inviting anyone who wants to come on and have a discussion about whatever they want to discuss about. I think that's another important factor too, is that we're all adults here. We're all trying to make it in life, right? We're all trying to make this into a living. I know, but there's various levels, and I grew up in the ghetto myself. So
Okay.
So I can take I guess not the heat, but I've met so many people from all different walks of life growing up. Some hardcore, some a little out there. But I know that at the end of the day, they just want to express themselves. They just want to share their thoughts and feelings, and they don't want to be written off. And I get that. So that's why I've created this channel to give people a platform. Just like, oh, well, let me know what you think. What are you thinking? I'm not going to judge you here. So let it out. And so far, so good. So far, so good. We'll see how long that lasts. But again, guys, thank you again for showing up and joining us for the show. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We'll see you on the next one. You guys have a great weekend. Peace.
On November 27th, 1997, citizens from a small Midwestern town called Carpenter's Bay were shocked to discover that one of their own brutally massacred his family, as well as ending his own life on Thanksgiving Day. Dubbed the Thanksgiving Day Massacre, this horrendous crime would forever tarnish the good name of this peaceful town. However, underneath this story lies a dark secret. A secret involving a government cover-up to hide the real story of what happened that fateful day. As the old saying goes, truth is stranger than fiction. Asset 13, The Last Thanksgiving, written by Julius Freeman, art by Greg Warrenchak, available on Global Comics. Evil has a new holiday.
How you finishing?